Hello there, people of the internet. I've talked about this subject before on this channel, kind of, but I want to go ahead and make a more dedicated video based on it. And that is the idea of having very simple to use firearms that anybody can use. So, I've talked about before on this channel how the expectations and what should happen is different from the reality of what actually does happen. And what I mean by that is, for the people who go out and purchase themselves a firearm for XYZ purpose, odds are, actually by a huge margin, most people who go out and get themselves a firearm don't adamantly train with that firearm to the point where they would classify as proficient with that firearm. Most people are just going to go out, get it, get a general idea of how it functions, put it in a drawer somewhere, leave it there, or put it in a closet to gather dust, and then never touch it again. And then whenever push comes to shove, say 5 years down the road, they're like, oh no, we have this situation here. I'm gonna need my particular firearm that I decided to get all that time ago. Open up the drawer, grab the things. Alright, how do I put the ammunition inside of the magazine again? I think like this. Alright, how do I actually rack the slide on this handgun, where's the safety at, etc., etc. But my point is, most people aren't going to go out and get the training that they need, and so having extraordinarily simple firearms for the average person is just a good idea. Now, in the gun community, it's easy to say, hey, this is the best gun to go out and get because it's easy to use, and it's simple to use, it's affordable, it's very effective, but the average person, like what's easy to us as gun people, is not easy to the average person. Like, for example, what's a good example? Alright, the AK-47. I think that I have one in my pile here somewhere. The AK-47. A lot of people have told me that the AK is such a good gun for somebody to go out and get if they're not really into firearms, because the AK does an exceptional job at the distances that most people would need an AK to run at, but it also takes extraordinarily little maintenance to get the AK up and going. It's got relatively light recoil, etc., etc. It's stupid simple, stupid easy to use. And you can teach someone how to use an AK very quickly and very easily in comparison to some other firearms. However, most people aren't going to go out and learn how to use that AK effectively. They might put a day into learning how to use that AK, like the general actions that are needed to properly make that firearm function. But there's just little nuances with the AK that the average person who is not a gun person has difficulty with. And the one thing that really comes to mind is that Rock and Lock magazine on the AK. That's just such a difficult thing for new people who aren't really gun people. And it's to the point to where if you have an AK and you're like, hey, this is a bad situation, I know you don't know anything about firearms, but here's an AK and a bunch of magazines, I don't trust that person to be able to reload that AK adequately enough in a stressful situation with those Rock and Lock magazines. That's one of the benefits that an AR has, but even the AR has its downfalls. The amount of times that I've gone to a gun range with a new person with an AR, and I'm like, yeah, here's how it works, it's extraordinarily simple, then I just walk them through how the AR fundamentally functions, and they're like, fantastic, go out, they put the magazine inside of the magazine well, they hit the bolt release button, they bang, 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 fantastic, all is good, alright, now you gotta reload, mag out, new mag in, go to press that button, nothing happens. The AR malfunctioned and the bolt carrier group is not locked to the rear. Oh no, I have no idea what to do. You can show them how to rack the charging handle, but by the time that they figure out what is actually going on with the platform, if we're in a bad situation, that's not what you want. You don't want them to have to try and process that they have to pull that charging handle if they're not used to that essentially muscle memory. So the AR definitely has its downfalls with things like that. And that's a very simple malfunction. That's a very easy to fix malfunction. Anytime I'm dealing with an AR and I'm running like really cheap ammo or remanufactured ammo or something like that, we'll get malfunctions and whatnot. And you know what happens whenever someone who's not a gun guy is holding an AR that malfunctions, like a double feed, failure to eject, etc., etc.? They go like this. they hold it and they're like, here's the thing, it's broken and I don't know how to fix it. That's because the AR, although to gun people like me and you, is extraordinarily simple, but to the average person, it is simply not. Same thing with semi-auto handguns. The amount of times that I've taken somebody out with a semi-auto handgun and it malfunctions for some reason. They're like, I don't know what to do here, here's the thing. And you can walk them through the fundamental mechanics of how a semi-auto handgun works. You can show them how to insert a mag, rack the slide, how the round is stripped from the magazine and put into the chamber. And you can show them how the safety works, etc., etc. But in a bad situation, all of that seems to completely get thrown out of their head if they are not drilled on it on a fairly regular basis. If you show them once, and down the road, you know, oftentimes several years down the road, they end up needing that. There are many instances in real life situations where somebody goes to use their firearm to defend themselves and there's not a round in the chamber, or the safety is not flicked on or off, and they end up paying a price for that. Or how about the people who are gun people? And this is one that is very common. People that are gun people, and they go to a gun store. Oh, the gun's unloaded. Here's the magazine. And oh, let's rack around from the chamber because the gun is actually loaded and you don't understand how this gun works. So simple guns are a really good way to go for people who don't understand guns. If you have to give a gun to someone and they don't know how a gun works, you give them the easiest to use firearm that you possibly have. Like, this is one that I say is a good go-to, maybe not this right here, but pretty much any kind of revolver that has an open cylinder. So whoever is using this particular firearm, they can open up that cylinder and look inside of it. Oh, is there any ammunition in this? No? Let's put some ammunition in that. Yes? Fantastic. We're ready to go. It doesn't matter if it's a top break action like this or one of those cylinders that opens out the side of the revolver. Bottom line, it's really, really easy to tell if something like this is ready to go. And this is something that I would feel comfortable giving to literally anybody, showing, hey, here's how it opens, you look in there, you see if there's ammo in it. If there is, fantastic. Same thing with like bolt action rifles. I get that semi-autos have their, what's the word I'm looking for here? They have their extreme benefits. There's a lot of good that comes from a semi-auto. But if you give someone a bolt action and you tell them, hey, as long as there's ammo right here, you have ammo to shoot this thing. If there's no ammo, then grab your rounds and stuff them in that bad boy. And then you tell them every time you fire this thing, cycle it. This got a magazine close, or a magazine catch on the empty magazine. But every time you fire that, cycle it until you are out of ammo. Then open this thing up, put more ammo in it. It's a very, very simple, easy to use system. And whenever I give people something like this and I show them how to use that very simple operation, even if there is a malfunction, they can figure it out. So if I have people who are not gun people and I have to rely on these people in a bad time, they are getting the simplest firearms that I have to an extent. Like if I give them a muzzle loader like this right here, that would probably be a bad idea. That's a far simpler gun than a bolt-action rifle, but that would probably be a bad idea just because of the operations that go into that thing. But I'm giving them the simplest to use firearms, because if something goes wrong with it, if they end up not using it for a year, if something happens to the point to where it's a stressful situation and they are not adequately trained on the platform is simple and easy enough to figure out to the point to where they would be able to figure it out. Even people who don't know how guns work can figure these things out within moments. And if you show somebody just once how to take this thing and cycle it like that every time you pull the trigger, open it up, no ammo, shove ammo in there, then they're pretty much set. Versus something like an AR, where if you have a double feed or a failure to eject, or the bolt carrier group isn't held all the way open, or insert your choice of XYZ situation here, where somebody who's not a gun person would be confused, that might potentially cost them their life. thing. I don't like that. I can't get behind that. So that's one of the main reasons why I still see things like the old antique firearms that I collect. I still see these as a good, viable go-to for the people who I would not trust to be able to adequately use a better firearm. Like, if I have someone who doesn't know how to use and properly run an AR, I'm gonna hand them a Mosin, and I'm gonna be like, open that thing up, if there's any ammo in that, it's going bang. So, there we go. I guess that's my rant. It was a little bit of a rant, but it was a rant. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.